Hello. Good afternoon. This is Three Things with Ian. I am Ian. I will discuss three things. It is May the 8th, and this is episode 128. Welcome. So let's just dive in. Habemus, Papam. We have a pope, everybody. So this story evolved and changed pretty dramatically. I started this morning with a very different story because with great naiveness, I assumed that the process by which we ordain a new pope would take a long time, like 20, 30 days, prolonged debates, a contracted affair. If I'd done my research in the modern day era of popeness, 2 or 3 days is your average time to get 88 out of the 133 ballots to be the same person, the 2/3 majority. So, although this morning's first ballot was indeed a black smoke ballot, by the afternoon, we had white smoke. We had white smoke, and so my ongoing Pope Chronicles saga is done after just 2 episodes. This being the second of 2 episodes. So, backing up a little bit, I prepared some notes. We may as well talk about them. There's 133 cardinal electors. They are sequestered in the Vatican, right? They can't leave until a new pope is ordained. Maybe they were just tired. Maybe they were just like, they needed to get back to their phones. Maybe that was why they were so fast. I don't know. So obviously there's an iconic chapel chimney, right? A traditional symbol, pre-technology, pre-cell phones, pre-landlines, indicating that a candidate has either been selected or not. Black smoke is a no-go, and then the white smoke means that they've received the 2/3 majority. And then this person, they will be heralded in as the new pope, and there's no she's really, unfortunately, he will be the leader of the 1.4 billion faithful. So, and where they are in this process is the conclave, right? From the Latin cum clave, meaning with a key. A fitting description for the secrecy and seclusion that surrounds the process, right? Because just as in, I guess, a modern day jury, you're cut off from you're cut off from the outside world once you're sequestered in the conclave. So Wednesday afternoon was when they did, I think, their first ballot. It is now Thursday p.m. And essentially, when they began the conclave, all the non-electors were forced to leave the Sistine Chapel, and then the cardinals entered and they began their secret balloting. I didn't realize also that cardinals can cast up to 4 ballots a day. I think it behooves them to do so if they think they can get close to a consensus. So 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. If no one gets the 2/3 majority, you just keep going. So ballots are then incinerated after they're done in a special stove in the Sistine Chapel. The smoke that is emitted from that is your telltale sign. Now, obviously, to avoid confusion, they use chemical cartridges just to make sure that the black smoke is indeed black and not some sort of less grayish, opaque. Like, they want it to be a very black and then a very white. So anyway, today I was at work and I received a text message from my wife, saying, we got a new pope. Pope has emerged. Habemus Papam. We have a pope. And then tomorrow, I will get a third topic out of this, a third day. We will do day 3 of 3 of the Pope Chronicles. We will discuss the new pope. So tune in for that. So anyway, it's been fun to be part of this process from a distance. I did have some relatives actually that did travel to Rome during this time, and I'm curious what their experience was. My second topic is almost something that's it's like out of a movie. A half-ton Soviet spacecraft lost in space since 1972 is coming home. And by coming home, I mean crash landing, because that's what you do when you're in space when you want to come home. You crash land. So Cosmos with a K 482 was a robotic Soviet spacecraft. It was intended to go to Venus. It did not get there. It actually did not do well at all. There were some technical difficulties, and it ended up basically staying in low Earth orbit and essentially just doing its rotations, and then mathematics are involved, and it slowly just gets closer and closer. Eventually, it will reach a point where this weekend it will be gravity and all the mathematics come together, and it will eventually fall. It will have enough mass and velocity and get close enough with its traditional arc trajectory, it will fall to Earth. It's been adrift for 53 years. 53 years. It's just been kind of going up there. Like I said, no offense to the Soviets, they have been very good at spacecrafting for many years. This was supposed to be the ninth of the uncrewed Soviet Venera missions. Venera being that's Soviet for Venus. It didn't work. It's been stranded in low Earth orbit for all this time. This is a big boy one though. This is 1,050 pounds, and it has a very protective heat shield because it was meant initially to go to Venus, which is a very hot planet, and to get to through the atmosphere of Venus, it needed a mighty, mighty, mighty fat shield. So it will probably survive. Obviously, 53 years in space has changed some of the structural integrity of it, but there's a good chance it will survive its dive through the atmosphere intact. Obviously, now it's like a big deal. Predictions. The window of time in which it's probably going to re-enter is between Friday and Saturday. The New York Times is all over this, as is in a bunch of other, NASA and other groups are using the best technology they have at their disposal to kind of figure out where they think it will land. Obviously, no one knows because not only is it hurling through space at 17,000 miles per hour, once it hits the atmospheric friction, it will be it's impossible to predict exactly where it goes. Anybody that's watched Jurassic Park, when Dr. Ian Malcolm puts the droplet of water on his hand, and it's the chaos theory. We don't know. You can predict, but we don't know exactly what path it will take. It's between 52 degrees latitude and 52 degrees south latitude, which covers Africa, Australia, and much of most of the world is in the bracket. Obviously, three things can happen: a splash, a thud, or an ouch, and we're hoping for the splash. Obviously, the Earth is covered majority with water, so it'll probably splash down landing. So anyway, it's just different. What's the back end of this story is, how did they even rediscover it, right? Because 25 years ago, there was a guy, Dr. McDowell from NORAD, and he was going through the 25,000 orbital objects that are not cataloged and trying to pin what each one was. And then Object 6073 was a bit different. He studied its orbit and size and decided that yes, this was indeed the missing Soviet Venus mission satellite. And so he surmised that this was the Cosmos 482, and so now there was a pin on it and we could track it. And a recently declassified Soviet document was that is it. So anyway, kind of a weird story. At some point in time, 1,050-pound object is going to be careening through space, and hopefully we get a splash landing. And whatever happens, it is Soviet material. And so I was reading in the article that if you do find it, it doesn't belong to you. You have to return it to Russia. So anyway, all right. The third story, it's going to be a kind of a quick one. It's going to be about soccer, because why not? Bodo Glimt, Glimt. This is a Norwegian team that has a massive game coming up against Tottenham. It's a very rare occurrence for a Norwegian team to make it into the semifinals of the historic Europa League. I won't go into the details, but the Europa League is sort of like the second fiddle to the UEFA Championships. A lot of really good teams are entering, and this Norwegian team, Bodo Glimt, is still going. The problem is that there are 50,000. There's only 480 tickets available for them, and there's 50,000 fans, which is roughly, if you're interested, the size of the population of the town. So essentially, everybody in this town of Bodo is interested in going to a game, and there's like 500 tickets available. So what are people doing? Well, it wouldn't be a Norwegian tale if it didn't involve some crazy fish. So semi-dried fish. There's a fish called a Boknafisk, Boknafisk. This is a delicious semi-dried fish, and it is worth a lot of money. And so people are literally trading kilos of semi-dried fish, think of it as fish jerky, to try to persuade people to give up their tickets. Another person has 5 kilos of reindeer meat, and he was able to trade his 5 kilos of reindeer meat for a ticket. So like I said, this is a big deal for this Norwegian team. They're the first team ever from Norway to be featured in the semifinals of a European competition. They unfortunately do trail the Spurs 3-1 after the first leg in London last week. We shall see what will happen. But there are very few tickets and a lot of demand, and so as a true Norwegian, you are going to barter meat and fish. So time will tell. I am rooting for a epic comeback from the Bodo team to see if they can beat the Tottenham Spurs, which are, for those that don't know, a respectable team in the English Premier League. So I'm going to leave you with that. We did episode 2 of the Pope Chronicles. We have a Pope. The Cardinals saw their shadow. The conclave is over already. Tomorrow we'll talk about who the Pope is. We also talked about soccer, because what else are we ever going to talk about? And then, of course, we talked about this massive, ill-fated Venus satellite that is going to be careening down into Earth and hopefully not crushing anyone's home or domicile. Anyway, hats off to you all. Have a blessed evening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.